My name is Matt Foster, and I'm about to tell you how my wife's free pass became the most expensive night of her life. But first, let me paint you a picture of our perfect little marriage. Picture this, a modest two-story colonial in Millfield, Massachusetts, complete with white picket fence and a lawn I actually gave a damn about. Inside, you'd find me, Matt Foster, 39 years old, project manager at Reardon Construction, former high school hockey star turned weekend beer league hero. I'm the guy who fixes the garbage disposal, remembers anniversaries, and still opens car doors for my wife like some kind of domesticated caveman. Then there's Vanessa. Vanessa Foster, née Richardson, 36 years old, marketing executive at Brightway Communications. She's got that polished, professional look that screams, "I peaked in college, but I'm still trying." Blonde highlights that cost more than my monthly beer budget, yoga pants that have never seen a yoga studio, and a smile that could sell ice to Eskimos, which coincidentally is pretty much her job. Our son Tyler, 15, is the best thing that ever happened to either of us, though lately he's been giving Vanessa the kind of looks usually reserved for expired milk. Smart kid. For 12 years, we were the couple other couples envied. We had barbecues, went to Tyler's hockey games together, took family vacations to the Cape. I worked my ass off to provide, she climbed the corporate ladder, and we both pretended that the growing distance between us was just the natural evolution of marriage. But here's the thing about perfect marriages. They're like perfect storms. All that pressure building up underneath has to go somewhere eventually. The cracks started showing about 6 months ago. Vanessa began having more girls' nights than a sorority pledge. She'd come home smelling like expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine, with stories about Chloe's latest drama or Mel's dating disasters that sounded rehearsed. Her phone became surgically attached to her hand, and she guarded it like state secrets. "I'm just going through a phase," she'd say when I asked about her sudden need for space and personal growth. "Every woman needs to rediscover herself at some point." I nodded along like the supportive husband I was raised to be, even when her idea of self-discovery involved coming home at 2 a.m. with her lipstick smeared and her story changing every time she told it. The breaking point came on a Tuesday night in October. I was in the kitchen fixing a sandwich when I heard Vanessa on the phone upstairs, her voice carrying through the thin walls of our supposedly perfect home. "Oh my God, Chloe, you should have seen his abs. Rico's been working out like crazy since we broke up." Giggles. I know, I'm married, but a girl can look, right?" Rico. Rick D'Amato. Her ex-boyfriend from college, the one she claimed was ancient history whenever his name came up. The same Rico who owned that flashy gym downtown, drove a Camaro like he was still 22, and had the kind of tan that screamed, "I spend more on skincare than most people spend on groceries." I stood there with my sandwich halfway to my mouth, listening to my wife discuss another man's abs with the enthusiasm she used to reserve for me. "What if I just, got it out of my system?" she continued. "Like one night, just to see if there's still something there. Then I could move on and be a better wife to Matt." The logic was breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. That's when I found myself doing something I'd never done before. I started paying attention, really paying attention. Over the next few weeks, I became a detective in my own home. I noticed how Vanessa's phone buzzed constantly during dinner, how she'd disappear into the bathroom to text, how she'd suddenly developed an interest in working out at Rico's gym. She bought new lingerie, not for me, apparently, since I hadn't seen any of it. She started doing her hair differently, wearing perfume to the grocery store and humming songs I didn't recognize. The final piece of evidence came when I was looking for our insurance papers in her home office. Tucked inside her planner, written in her neat handwriting, was a list titled Free Pass Fantasy. Number 1, Rick D. Just once, then I can settle down for real. The other 4 names were crossed out. Rico was circled, twice. I stared at that list for a long time, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. That would come later. This was something else entirely. This was clarity. I took a photo of the list with my phone, put everything back exactly where I found it, and went downstairs to wait. Vanessa came home an hour later, practically glowing with whatever decision she'd made. She found me in the living room, watching the news and drinking a beer like it was any other Tuesday night. "Matt, honey, we need to talk." I muted the TV and turned to face her, my expression carefully neutral. "Sure, babe. What's on your mind?" She perched on the edge of the coffee table, her hands clasped in her lap like she was about to deliver a presentation. Which, in a way, she was. "I've been thinking about us, about our marriage, and I think we need to be more open with each other." "Open how?" "Well, you know how some couples have, like, a free pass? Where they can be with one person from their past just to get closure." I took a slow sip of my beer. "Can't say I'm familiar with the concept." "It's actually very healthy," she said, her voice gaining confidence. "It eliminates the what-if factor that can poison a relationship. Like, what if I never got proper closure with Rico? That uncertainty could eat away at our marriage for years." "Rico," I repeated. "Right. And the thing is, I ran into him at the gym, and there's still this energy between us. But if I could just spend one night with him, get it out of my system completely, then I could come back to you and Tyler with a clear head and a full heart." The performance was flawless. She'd clearly been practicing this speech for weeks, complete with buzzwords she'd probably gotten from some self-help article about conscious uncoupling or ethical non-monogamy. I finished my beer and set the bottle down carefully. One night. Just one night. And then never again. I promise. And you think this will make you a better wife? I know it will. I nodded slowly, as if I was actually considering this insane proposal. "When were you thinking?" Her eyes lit up. "This weekend? Rico has this really nice apartment above the gym, and you've already talked to him about this." A slight flush. "Just hypothetically." "Of course." I stood up, stretched, and gave her my most understanding smile. "You know what, Vanessa? I think you're absolutely right." "Really?" "Really. In fact, I'll help you pack." The look of relief on her face was almost comical. She threw her arms around me, pressing her face against my chest. "Oh, Matt, thank you for being so understanding. This is exactly why I love you. You always put my happiness first." "That's what husbands are for," I said, patting her back gently. "Why don't you go get your things together? I'll drive you over to Rico's place myself." She pulled back, searching my face. "You don't have to do that. I insist. After all, if my wife is going to have her one perfect night, I want to make sure she gets there safely." 20 minutes later, I was loading Vanessa's overnight bag into our Honda Civic while she touched up her makeup in the passenger seat. She'd changed into a black dress I'd never seen before, the kind that cost more than my work boots and left very little to the imagination. "You look beautiful," I told her as we pulled out of our driveway. "Thank you, baby." "And Matt?" "Tomorrow, when I come home, everything will be different. Better. I promise. I'm counting on it." Rico's gym was in a converted warehouse downtown, all glass and chrome and motivational posters. His apartment was on the second floor, accessible through a side entrance that screamed bachelor pad. I could see him waiting in the window, probably watching for our car like some kind of predator. I pulled up to the curb and put the car in park. "Here we are." Vanessa leaned over and kissed my cheek. "I love you, Matt Foster." "I love you too, Vanessa. Have fun getting your closure." She grabbed her bag and practically skipped to the door, where Rico appeared in a tight black t-shirt and jeans that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. He was exactly what you'd expect. All flash and no substance, the kind of guy who still wore his high school class ring and called everyone bro. I watched them embrace, watched him run his hands down her back in a way that should have made my blood boil. Instead, I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. As they disappeared into the building, I pulled out my phone and called my best friend, Dave. Matt? What's up, man? I just dropped my wife off at her ex-boyfriend's apartment for the night. What? She asked for a free pass. One night to get him out of her system forever. Dude, are you having a breakdown? I laughed, surprising myself. Actually, Dave, I've never been clearer about anything in my life. Want to help me change some locks? Dave arrived at my house 40 minutes later with a toolbox, a six-pack of beer, and the kind of grin usually reserved for Christmas morning. So let me get this straight, he said, setting his tools down in my foyer. Vanessa actually asked you for permission to sleep with her ex-boyfriend. Not just asked. Convinced me it would be good for our marriage. And you said yes. I said yes. I twisted the cap off a beer and handed it to him. I even drove her there myself. Dave shook his head in amazement. Matt, buddy, you're either the most understanding husband in Massachusetts, or you've completely lost your mind. Maybe both. We started with the front door, replacing the deadbolt with a shiny new one that came with exactly 2 keys, both of which would be staying with me. As we worked, I filled Dave in on the details, the mysterious phone calls, the new lingerie, the free pass fantasy list I'd found in Vanessa's planner. She actually wrote it down? Dave asked, nearly dropping his screwdriver. In her neat little handwriting. Rico was number 1, circled twice. Jesus, what were the other names? Her college professor, some guy from her yoga class, her boss, and this was my favorite, the UPS driver. Dave burst out laughing. The UPS driver? Apparently Steve has really nice forearms. Unbelievable. He finished installing the new lock and tested it twice. So what's the plan here, Matt? You can't just lock her out forever. Watch me. But Dave was right. I needed a real plan. Changing the locks was just the opening move. What I had in mind was something much more comprehensive. Something that would ensure Vanessa got exactly what she'd asked for. Complete closure. While Dave worked on the back door, I went upstairs to Vanessa's home office. Her laptop was still open, password saved and logged into everything. Her email, her social media accounts, her cloud storage, all of it sitting there like an early Christmas present. I started with her text messages, which were automatically syncing to her laptop. The conversation with Rico went back 3 weeks. Rico, still thinking about our conversation at the gym. Vanessa, me too. But it's complicated, Rico. Doesn't have to be. One night V, just like old times Vanessa. I'm married, Rico. So? Matt seems like the understanding type Vanessa. Maybe too understanding Rico. His loss, my gain, and then, from just 2 hours ago, Vanessa. On my way. Matt's driving me over. Rico. Seriously? Vanessa. I told you he was understanding Rico. Understanding or stupid? Vanessa. Does it matter? I screenshotted everything, then moved on to her group chat with her girlfriends. This was where things got really interesting. Chloe. So you're really going through with it? Vanessa. Tonight's the night. Mel. I still can't believe Matt said yes. Vanessa. He practically packed my bags. Chloe. Think he suspects anything? Vanessa. Suspects what? That I've been planning this for months? No way. He's too trusting, Mel. What if Rico's not as good as you remember? Vanessa. Then at least I'll know. But if he is... Chloe. If he is what? Vanessa. Let's just say Matt might not be the only one getting a reality check. I sat back in her chair, staring at the screen. Months. She'd been planning this for months, and I'd been walking around like some clueless sitcom husband while my wife orchestrated her own affair with mathematical precision. The group chat continued. Vanessa. Besides, if things go really well, who says it has to be just one night? Chloe. Vanessa. Vanessa. What? Life's short. And Rico's got that new Camaro. Mel. What about Tyler? Vanessa. Tyler's 15. He'll understand eventually, Chloe. And Matt? Vanessa. Matt will get over it. He always does. I took screenshots of everything, saved them to a folder, and backed them up to 3 different cloud services. Then I opened her social media accounts and started documenting her recent posts, all the cryptic messages about new beginnings and following your heart that I'd assumed were just generic inspirational nonsense. Dave appeared in the doorway. Locks are done. What are you doing up here? Research. I showed him the screenshots. He whistled low. She's been planning this for months? And that's not even the best part. I scrolled to the bottom of the group chat. Look at this. Vanessa. Honestly, I think I married the wrong guy, Chloe. You're just realizing this now? Vanessa. Rico never would have let me get bored like this, Mel, so why did you marry Matt? Vanessa. He was safe, stable, good father material. But a girl needs excitement too, Chloe. Maybe it's time for an upgrade. Vanessa. Maybe it is. Dave was quiet for a long moment. Matt, I'm sorry, man. I had no idea she was this calculating. Neither did I. But now I do. I closed the laptop and stood up. And now I'm going to show her exactly what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. We went back downstairs, where I opened another beer and started making a list. If Vanessa wanted to play games, I was happy to oblige, but we were going to play by my rules. First item, call my lawyer in the morning to discuss my options. Massachusetts was a no-fault divorce state, but adultery could still affect alimony and custody arrangements. Second item, document everything. Every text, every email, every social media post that showed premeditation and intent to destroy our marriage. Third item, protect Tyler. My son didn't deserve to be collateral damage in his mother's midlife crisis. Fourth item, let Vanessa's friends and family know exactly what kind of person they'd been supporting. Fifth item, make sure Rico understood that actions have consequences. This is pretty cold-blooded, even for you, Dave said, reading over my shoulder. She had months to plan her betrayal. I've got one night to plan my response. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Having dinner. Thanks again for being so understanding. Love you. I showed Dave the message. What do you think? Should I respond? What would you normally say? Something supportive. Have fun. Be safe. See you tomorrow. Then that's what you should say. I typed back, enjoy your evening. Take all the time you need. It wasn't technically a lie. She should absolutely take all the time she needed, because when she came home tomorrow, she was going to need every second to figure out how to rebuild her entire life. Dave helped me move some of our more valuable items, my tools, Tyler's gaming system, our important documents, to his garage for safekeeping. Then we sat on my front porch, drinking beer and watching the neighborhood settle in for the night. You know, Dave said, most guys would be out looking for a bar fight right about now. Most guys don't have wives who hand them a roadmap to their own destruction. Fair point. He finished his beer and stood up. You need anything else tonight? Yeah, actually. I pulled out my phone. You know anyone who might be interested in some information about Rico D'Amato? What kind of information? The kind that would really interest his girlfriend. Dave grinned. Now you're talking my language. Lexi Moreau was exactly what you'd expect from a guy like Rico's girlfriend. 27, Instagram model, and blessed with the kind of looks that could stop traffic and empty bank accounts. What I hadn't expected was how smart she was. I accidentally ran into her at Murphy's pub the next evening, while Vanessa was still enjoying her night of closure with Rico. Lexi was sitting at the bar, nursing a Cosmopolitan, and scrolling through her phone with the kind of focused intensity that suggested she was already suspicious about something. Excuse me, I said, sliding onto the bar stool next to her. Aren't you Lexi? Rico D'Amato's girlfriend? She looked up, and I could see her doing the mental calculation. Middle-aged guy in a flannel shirt, wedding ring, probably harmless. Do I know you? Matt Foster. My wife works out at Rico's gym sometimes. Oh. She relaxed slightly. Yeah, I'm Lexi. Nice to meet you. I ordered a beer and made small talk for a few minutes, establishing my cover story. Concerned husband, wondering why my wife had been spending so much time at the gym lately, especially since she'd been talking about Rico a lot. Rico's a great trainer, Lexi said, but there was something guarded in her voice. Very dedicated to his clients. I'm sure he is. Actually, that's kind of what I wanted to ask you about. I took a sip of my beer, playing the part of the nervous, slightly clueless husband. My wife mentioned that she and Rico used to date back in college. Ancient history, you know? But lately she's been staying at the gym pretty late, and last night she didn't come home at all. Lexi's cosmopolitan stopped halfway to her lips. She didn't come home? She said she was having dinner with her girlfriends, but... I shrugged. Call it intuition, but something feels off. What's your wife's name? Vanessa. Vanessa Foster. Blonde, about 5'6", drives a silver Lexus. I watched the recognition dawn in Lexi's eyes, followed quickly by fury. She knew exactly who Vanessa was, which meant Rico had been stupid enough to mention her. That bastard, she whispered. I'm sorry? Nothing. She drained her cosmopolitan in one gulp and signaled the bartender for another. So your wife didn't come home last night? Nope. And she texted this morning saying she needed some space to think about things. I'm starting to wonder if maybe she and Rico have been, you know. Lexi's laugh was sharp and bitter. Oh, I know exactly what they've been doing. Rico's been talking about this Vanessa woman for weeks, his college girlfriend who got away, the one who married some boring guy but still had feelings for him. He said that? He said a lot of things, including how he was going to show her what she'd been missing and remind her why she fell for him in the first place. She turned to face me fully. Your wife asked for this, didn't she? She came to you and asked for permission to sleep with her ex-boyfriend. I blinked, playing dumb. How did you... Because that's exactly what Rico said would happen. He said she was going to convince you to let her have one night with him just to get it out of her system. He thought it was hilarious that you'd be stupid enough to agree. Jesus. Yeah, Jesus. Lexi pulled out her phone and started scrolling through photos. You want to see what your wife's one night of closure looks like? She showed me a series of Instagram stories from Rico's account, pictures of expensive wine, candles, rose petals on a bed. The final photo showed 2 wine glasses and a woman's hand wearing a wedding ring that I recognized immediately. He posted this, I asked. Oh, he's been documenting the whole thing. Look at this one. The next photo was a selfie of Rico looking smug and satisfied, with the caption, "Some nights are worth waiting for." Second chances, worth the wait. I am so sorry, Lexi said, and I could tell she genuinely meant it. You seem like a really nice guy, and you don't deserve this. Neither do you. No, I don't. She finished her second cosmopolitan and stood up. But unlike you, I'm not going to sit here and take it. What are you going to do? Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. I'm going to go have a conversation with my boyfriend and his college sweetheart. Want to come watch? Part of me was tempted, but I had other plans. Thanks, but I think I'll pass. I've got some thinking to do. Fair enough. She gathered her purse and jacket. But Matt, when you're done thinking and you decide you want some payback, call me. She handed me her business card, which, surprisingly, listed her as a social media consultant rather than just an Instagram model, and headed for the door. I finished my beer slowly, giving Lexi a 20-minute head start. Then I drove home and settled in to wait for the fireworks. They started at 11:47 p.m. when my phone buzzed with a video message from an unknown number. The footage was shaky and dark, but the audio was crystal clear. Lexi screaming at Rico and Vanessa, calling them both every name in the book, while systematically destroying Rico's bedroom. I could hear Vanessa crying and Rico trying to play peacemaker, which only made Lexi angrier. "You think this is funny?" Lexi shouted. "You think you can humiliate me and post it on social media like some kind of trophy?" "Baby, calm down," Rico said. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been planning this for weeks." "Both of you?" "Lexi, please," Vanessa's voice tearful and pathetic. "It was just supposed to be one night." "One night? One night? You're married. He's my boyfriend. What the hell is wrong with both of you?" The video ended with the sound of something expensive breaking and Rico cursing in Italian. I saved the video and texted back, "Thank you. This is very helpful." The response came immediately. "Just getting started. Check Rico's Instagram." I opened the app and found that Rico's account had been modified. Someone had changed his bio to read, "Cheating scumbag who steals other men's wives. Currently single and looking for a new place to live." All of his recent posts had been edited with new captions that told the real story of his affair with Vanessa, complete with screenshots of their text conversations. My phone rang. "Vanessa." "Matt?" "Oh God, Matt, I need you to come pick me up." "What's wrong?" I asked, though I had a pretty good idea. Rico's girlfriend showed up and she went crazy. She destroyed his apartment and she's threatening to call the police and… "Slow down, Vanessa. Where are you now?" "I'm in my car outside Rico's place. She threw all my stuff out the window and told me if she ever sees me again, she'll post naked pictures of me online." "Does she have naked pictures of you?" Silence. "Vanessa?" "It was just a few photos." "Rico said they were just for him." "Of course he did." "Where's Rico now?" "He's upstairs trying to clean up the mess." "Matt, I'm so sorry. This wasn't supposed to happen like this." "How is it supposed to happen?" "I was supposed to come home tomorrow morning and we were going to talk and everything was going to be better." "Better for who?" Another silence, longer this time. "Matt, can you please just come get me? I promise I'll explain everything when I get home." "About that," I said, "I changed the locks." "You what?" "I changed the locks. And I moved Tyler to my brother's house. I thought you might need some space to figure things out." "Matt, this is my house too. Actually, it's my house. I bought it before we got married, remember? Your name's not on the deed." I could hear her starting to panic. "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't know, Vanessa. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to blow up our marriage for one night with Rico." "I didn't blow up our marriage. I asked for your permission." "You asked for permission to cheat on me. There's a difference. It wasn't cheating if you said yes." "Is that what you're going with?" "Because I've got screenshots of your text messages that tell a very different story." Dead silence. "Yeah, that's right. I found your group chat with Chloe and Mel, the one where you talk about how you've been planning this for months. The one where you call me too trusting and discuss upgrading to a better husband." "Matt?" "The one where you say I'll get over it because I always do. It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that. And you know what? You were wrong about one thing." "What?" "I'm not going to get over it this time." I hung up and turned off my phone. Then I opened Vanessa's laptop, which was still logged into all her accounts, and got to work. By morning, Vanessa's carefully constructed social media presence had become a cautionary tale about the dangers of infidelity in the digital age. It started with her Facebook account, where I posted a heartfelt status update using her own words from the group chat. "Sometimes you realize you married the wrong person. Life's too short not to follow your heart, even if it means hurting the people who trust you most. Chuck new beginnings. Following my heart. Sorry, not sorry." The post included a photo from Rico's Instagram story, the one with the wine glasses and her wedding ring, along with a detailed explanation of how she'd asked her husband for permission to sleep with her ex-boyfriend and was now discovering that actions have consequences. I tagged Chloe, Mel, and several other mutual friends, along with some of her co-workers and her boss at Brightway Communications. Then I shared the post to several local community groups where Vanessa was active, including the PTA group for Tyler's school and the Neighborhood Watch Committee. Next, I moved to her Instagram account, where I posted the screenshots of her text conversations with Rico, along with excerpts from the group chat where she discussed her plans to upgrade her marriage. The caption read, "When you spend months planning to cheat on your husband and then act surprised when it blows up in your face. There are consequences. Truth, marriage is not a game." By the time I was finished, Vanessa's phone number, email address, and a detailed timeline of her affair were public knowledge across 3 different social media platforms and half a dozen community groups. My own phone started ringing around 8 a.m. Dave was the first call. "Dude, what did you do?" "My wife just showed me Vanessa's Facebook page." I told the truth. The whole truth, apparently. "Jesus, Matt, you basically nuked her from orbit." "She nuked herself. I just provided the documentation." The next call was from my brother Jim, who was watching Tyler for me. "Matt, Tyler's getting texts from his friends about his mom. What the hell is going on?" "I'll explain when I pick him up." "How's he handling it?" "Better than I expected, honestly. He said he's been waiting for you to figure out what was going on." "Smart kid." "He gets that from you." "But Matt, some of these posts, they're pretty brutal." "Good." The third call was from Vanessa's boss, Robert Chen, at Brightway Communications. "Mr. Foster, this is Robert Chen. I need to speak with you about some concerning posts that have appeared on social media involving your wife." "What about them?" "Well, frankly, they're reflecting poorly on our company. Vanessa represents our brand, and having her personal life displayed so publicly. Are you asking me to take them down? I'm asking you to consider the professional ramifications of this situation." "Mr. Chen, with all due respect, my wife spent months planning to cheat on me and then asked for my permission to do it. If that reflects poorly on your company, maybe you should reconsider who you choose to represent your brand." He was quiet for a moment. "I see your point. Besides, I didn't post anything that wasn't true. Every screenshot, every quote, every photo, it's all authentic. If Vanessa has a problem with how her own words make her look, she should have thought about that before she said them. Nevertheless, we'll need to discuss this situation with Vanessa when she comes in today. Good luck with that." I hung up and checked Vanessa's social media accounts again. The comments were pouring in, a mix of outrage, sympathy, and the kind of schadenfreude that the internet specializes in. Her co-workers were expressing shock and disappointment. Her neighbors were sharing their own stories of suspicious behavior they'd noticed. The PTA moms were discussing whether someone with such poor judgment should be involved in school activities. But the best comments were coming from people who knew Rico. Apparently, this wasn't his first time playing homewrecker, and several other women had come forward with their own stories about his predatory behavior toward married women. My phone rang again. This time it was Vanessa calling from what looked like a hotel number. "Matt, you have to take those posts down." "Good morning to you too, Vanessa. How was your night? Don't you dare act like this is funny. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I shared the truth about our marriage using your own words. If you don't like how that makes you look, maybe you should have made better choices." "I just got fired." "That was fast. This isn't a joke. I lost my job because of your little tantrum." "My tantrum?" "Vanessa, you spent months planning to destroy our marriage, and I'm the one having a tantrum. I asked for one night to get closure, and I gave it to you. How did that work out?" Silence. "Let me guess," I continued. "Rico's not quite the man you remembered. Lexi made sure you both understood that actions have consequences. And now you're sitting in a hotel room wondering how everything went so wrong so fast. Please, Matt. I know I made a mistake, but... A mistake? Vanessa, you didn't accidentally sleep with your ex-boyfriend. You planned it for months. You manipulated me into giving you permission. You told your friends I was too stupid to figure it out. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I was selfish. I'm sorry I made the worst decision of my life. That's a start. But sorry doesn't undo what you did. So what happens now? You destroy my life, and then we get divorced? I don't know, Vanessa. What did you think would happen when you decided I wasn't good enough for you anymore? I never said you weren't good enough. You said you married the wrong guy. You said you needed an upgrade. You said I was safe and stable and boring, and that a girl needs excitement too. You read all my messages. Every single one, including the ones where you and your friends laughed about how trusting I was, including the ones where you discussed making this more than just one night if Rico lived up to your expectations. Another long silence. Vanessa, let me ask you something. If Rico hadn't turned out to be a disappointment, if Lexi hadn't shown up and ruined your perfect night, would you have come home this morning? Of course I would have. Would you have told me the truth about how you felt? What do you mean? Would you have told me that you think you married the wrong person? Would you have asked for a separation so you could explore your feelings for Rico? The silence stretched so long I thought she might have hung up. I don't know, she finally whispered. That's what I thought. I hung up and turned off my phone again. Then I drove to my brother's house to pick up Tyler and explain why his mother had blown up their family for one night with a guy who still wore his high school class ring. Tyler took it better than I expected. At 15, he was old enough to understand that his parents were flawed human beings, and smart enough to have already figured out that something was seriously wrong with his mother's behavior. So Mom cheated on you, he said as we drove home. Yeah. And you found out about it before she did it. Yeah. And you let her do it anyway so she'd get caught. Something like that. He was quiet for a while, staring out the window at the familiar streets of our neighborhood. Dad? Yeah. Good. The next few days passed in a blur of phone calls, legal consultations, and watching Vanessa's carefully constructed life crumble in real time. My lawyer, Patricia Hendricks, was a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who specialized in divorce cases involving infidelity. She reviewed all my documentation, the screenshots, the social media posts, the timeline of Vanessa's affair, with the enthusiasm of a prosecutor building a murder case. This is excellent work, Matt, she said, spreading the printed evidence across her desk. Your wife's own words establish clear premeditation and intent to commit adultery. The fact that she asked for your permission actually works in our favor. It shows she knew what she was doing was wrong but did it anyway. What are my options? In Massachusetts, adultery doesn't automatically entitle you to a larger share of marital assets, but it can influence alimony and custody decisions. Given that your wife planned this affair for months and has shown a pattern of deceptive behavior, I think we can make a strong case for primary custody of Tyler and minimal alimony payments. What about the house? The house is in your name only, purchased before the marriage. She has no legal claim to it. Same with your retirement accounts and the construction business assets. I sat back in my chair, feeling something like relief for the first time in weeks. So she gets what, exactly? Her personal belongings, half of any joint accounts, and whatever she can earn on her own, which, given her recent employment situation, might not be much. The employment situation was getting worse by the day. Word of Vanessa's very public affair had spread through the local business community like wildfire, and apparently no one was eager to hire someone whose idea of professional judgment involved posting detailed accounts of her extramarital activities on social media. Rico wasn't faring much better. Lexi had done a thorough job of exposing his history of pursuing married clients, and several women had come forward with stories of inappropriate behavior. The gym was hemorrhaging members, and I'd heard through Dave that Rico was behind on his rent and facing possible eviction. But the real entertainment came from watching Vanessa's social circle implode. Chloe's husband had seen the screenshots of the group chat where his wife encouraged Vanessa's affair and provided detailed advice on how to deceive me. He'd filed for separation and was demanding access to all of Chloe's communications to see if she'd been planning her own extramarital adventures. Mel had been fired from her job at the bank after her boss discovered she'd been using company computers to help Vanessa research divorce lawyers and private investigators. Apparently, they'd been planning to have me followed to see if they could find evidence of me cheating, which would have given Vanessa leverage in divorce proceedings. The whole conspiracy was unraveling beautifully, and I hadn't had to do anything beyond telling the truth and letting natural consequences play out. Tyler was handling everything with the kind of mature pragmatism that made me proud and heartbroken at the same time. He'd chosen to stay with me rather than visit his mother, and when she called to try to explain her actions, he'd listened politely and then asked if she was planning to get back together with Rico. She said no, he told me after one of these conversations. She said Rico turned out to be a disappointment, and she realized she'd made a terrible mistake. How do you feel about that? I feel like she's only sorry because it didn't work out the way she wanted. If Rico had been everything she hoped for, I don't think she'd be calling to apologize. Smart kid. Too smart maybe, but that was better than being naive. The final confrontation came on a Thursday evening, exactly 2 weeks after Vanessa's night of closure with Rico. I was in the garage working on my truck when she pulled into the driveway in a rental car. Her Lexus had apparently been repossessed when she couldn't make the payments. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes were wrinkled, and she had the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't been sleeping well. She'd lost weight, but not in a healthy way. She looked like a person who'd been surviving on gas station coffee and regret. Matt, we need to talk. I didn't look up from the engine. Talk about what? About us. About our marriage. About fixing this. There's nothing to fix, Vanessa. You made your choice. I made a mistake. A terrible, stupid mistake. But it's not too late to... To what? Pretend it never happened? Go back to the way things were? Yes. We can go to counseling. We can work through this. I finally looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing but pity. Vanessa, do you remember what you told Chloe and Mel about me getting over things? She flinched. That was different. I was angry and... You said I always get over it. You said I was too trusting, too understanding, too willing to put your happiness ahead of my own. I was wrong. No, you were right. I did always get over it. Every time you came home late without calling. Every time you lied about where you'd been or who you'd been with. Every time you made me feel like I was being paranoid or controlling for asking basic questions about my own wife's behavior. I closed the hood of the truck and wiped my hands on a rag. But here's the thing you never understood, Vanessa. There's a difference between being understanding and being a doormat. There's a difference between forgiveness and enabling. And there's a difference between trusting your wife and being stupid enough to let her destroy your family for a one-night stand with a guy who posts about it on Instagram. Matt, please. You want to know the worst part? It wasn't the cheating. It was the planning. It was the months of lies and manipulation. It was you sitting at our dinner table, helping Tyler with his homework, pretending to be a loving wife and mother while you plotted to blow up everything we'd built together. She started crying then, the kind of ugly, desperate crying that comes from finally understanding the magnitude of what you've lost. I know I hurt you, she sobbed. I know I destroyed everything good between us. But Matt, I love you. I love Tyler. I love our family. Please don't throw it all away because I made one terrible mistake. One mistake? Vanessa, you made 1,000 small choices that led to that one night. You chose to reconnect with Rico. You chose to lie to me about where you were going and who you were seeing. You chose to ask your friends for advice on how to deceive me. You chose to write down a list of men you wanted to sleep with. You chose to manipulate me into giving you permission to cheat. I stepped closer, and she looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes full of desperate hope. And then, after all of that, you chose to tell your friends that if it went well, it might not be just one night. You chose to discuss upgrading to a better husband. You chose to bet that I was too stupid and too weak to do anything about it. I never meant. You meant every word. And you know what? You were almost right. The old Matt, the understanding Matt, the Matt who always got over it, he would have taken you back. He would have gone to counseling and pretended to forgive you and spent the rest of his life wondering when you'd do it again. I opened the driver's door of my truck. But that Matt passed the night you asked for your free pass. The Matt you're talking to now is someone different. Someone who finally understands that love without respect isn't love at all. It's just convenient. So that's it? She asked. 15 years of marriage, and you're just going to throw it away? I got in the truck and started the engine. I'm not throwing anything away, Vanessa. You already did that. I'm just finally admitting it. As I backed out of the driveway, I could see her in the rearview mirror, standing alone in the driveway of the house she'd never live in again, finally understanding the true cost of her free pass. 6 months later, I was sitting on my back deck with a beer and the local newspaper when Tyler came out to join me. Mom called, he said, settling into the chair next to mine. Yeah? How's she doing? She got a job at that insurance place downtown, part-time, but it's something. Good for her. Tyler was quiet for a moment, watching the sun set over our neighborhood. At 16 now, he'd grown 3 inches and developed the kind of quiet confidence that comes from surviving a family crisis with your integrity intact. She asked if I wanted to have dinner with her this weekend. What did you tell her? I told her I'd think about it. I nodded. That's fair. Dad? Yeah. Do you ever regret it? How you handled everything, I mean. It was a good question, one I'd asked myself many times over the past 6 months. Did I regret exposing Vanessa's affair so publicly? Did I regret destroying her reputation and her career? Did I regret choosing nuclear warfare over quiet divorce proceedings? No, I said finally. I don't regret it. Even though it hurt her so bad? Tyler, your mother spent months planning to hurt me and you and our family. She just never expected there to be consequences for her actions. But she lost everything. She chose to risk everything. There's a difference. He thought about that for a while, the way teenagers do when they're trying to understand the complicated moral landscape of adult relationships. What about Rico? I smiled. Rico's story had become something of a local legend. After losing his gym and his apartment, he'd moved back in with his parents and taken a job at a chain fitness center in the next town over. Lexi had made sure that his reputation followed him wherever he went, posting detailed accounts of his affair with Vanessa on every review site and social media platform she could find. The last I'd heard, he was dating a divorced woman in her 50s who owned a nail salon and didn't take any of his nonsense. Rico learned that other people's marriages aren't playground equipment, I said. And Chloe and Mel? Chloe's getting divorced. Mel's working at a coffee shop and living with her sister. They learned that helping someone destroy their marriage can destroy your own life too. Tyler nodded slowly. So everyone got what they deserved. Everyone got what they chose. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the neighborhood come alive with the sounds of evening, kids playing in yards, dogs barking, the distant hum of lawn mowers and backyard barbecues. Dad? Yeah? I'm proud of you. For what? For not letting her get away with it. For showing me that you don't have to accept being treated badly, even by people you love. I reached over and squeezed his shoulder. That's the most important lesson I can teach you, son. Respect yourself enough to demand respect from others, even if it costs you everything. Especially then. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and smiled. Who's that? Tyler asked. Sarah. She's asking if we want to come over for dinner Sunday. Sarah Bell was the detective who lived 3 houses down, a smart, funny woman in her early 40s who'd been divorced for 2 years and understood the complicated process of rebuilding your life after someone you trusted betrays you. We'd been dating for 3 months now, taking things slow and building something real based on mutual respect and genuine affection. "I like Sarah," Tyler said. "Me too. She's nothing like Mom." "No, she's not." "Good," I typed back. "We'd love to. Should we bring anything?" The response came immediately. "Just yourselves, and maybe that famous potato salad." "Sarah wants us to bring potato salad to dinner Sunday," I told Tyler. "The one with the bacon?" "The one with the bacon. I'll help you make it." As we sat there planning our weekend, I thought about the man I'd been 6 months ago, the understanding husband, the one who always got over it, the one who put everyone else's happiness ahead of his own dignity. That man was gone, replaced by someone stronger, someone who understood that kindness without boundaries isn't kindness at all. It's just enabling. Vanessa had wanted a free pass, one night to explore what she thought she was missing. Instead, she'd gotten a masterclass in consequences, a front-row seat to watch her carefully constructed life crumble under the weight of her own choices. Rico had wanted to relive his college glory days with someone else's wife. Instead, he'd learned that some games have higher stakes than he was prepared to pay. Chloe and Mel had wanted to live vicariously through their friend's affair, offering advice and encouragement for her betrayal. Instead, they'd discovered that being an accessory to someone else's destruction can destroy your own life just as thoroughly. And me? I'd wanted a wife who respected me enough to be honest about her feelings, even if those feelings were difficult to hear. Instead, I'd gotten something better. I'd gotten my self-respect back. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that reminded me of new beginnings. Tyler was texting with friends, making plans for the weekend. My phone buzzed with another message from Sarah, this one just a simple heart emoji that made me smile. 6 months ago, I'd been a man whose wife thought he was too weak and too stupid to stand up for himself. Tonight, I was a man who'd proven that underestimating someone's capacity for consequences can be the most expensive mistake you ever make. Vanessa had asked for one night, just one night to get her ex-boyfriend out of her system. I'd given her exactly what she'd asked for, along with a lifetime to think about whether it had been worth it. As I finished my beer and headed inside to help Tyler with his homework, I couldn't help but smile at the beautiful irony of it all. My wife's free pass had turned out to be the most expensive night of her life, but for me, it had been absolutely priceless. It had cost me a marriage, but it had bought me something far more valuable: the knowledge that I was worth more than I'd been settling for, and the strength to demand it. And that, I thought as I turned off the porch light and locked the door behind me, was a bargain at any price. Price, 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 price.